That night, countless meteors rained down on the horizon, and all electronic devices worldwide stopped for 100 seconds. It would only be later that such an odd occurrence would be revealed to be Earth's final warning. The beautiful astronomical miracle that captivated everyone was actually an invitation from the apocalypse of humanity. Quantum life forms that fell from the sky, called star spirits. They searched for hosts themselves, and, through genetic resonance, granted humans the power to predict the future and manipulate elements and gravity. And so, people called the awakening of talent awake. But what brought even greater terror to humanity was the fact that nature itself began moving with its own will. Earth's structure began to rebuild. This caused the apocalypse war as life forms began seeking star spirits. Now, in a room where a meeting is being held, the boss became furious. He asked the guy presenting, "What the hell is this? How dare you bring me such a crappy proposal?" He threw the paper on him, told him to pack his things and get out. He's a failure as a planner. Speechless, the guy left and shut the door. One of the guys in the room asked the boss why he rejected the proposal. If he looked closely, it was actually a really good idea. If completed, it would definitely be popular. The boss told him to shut up. He had been in the business for 20 years, he knew that much. It's just that business had been bad lately, so someone had to get fired, and the guy was just unlucky. He grinned, saying of course the proposal belonged to them in the second department. Their bonuses depended on the guy. And nobody like him shouldn't have had such talent. There's no way he'd let a life reversal happen. Now, somewhere in the company, the guy, the protagonist of this story, Kanu Hotaka, a 24-year-old rookie game planner, well, that was in the past since he got fired before even a year at the company. The industry is all about talent, and he apparently didn't have that talent. He was texting with someone, a guy who he met on a bulletin board where game planners gather, and he's the only one who supports him. The guy told him not to undermine himself. He did have talent. Those higher-ups definitely rejected his proposal just to steal it. Though the guy's name sounded funny, his encouragement was what kept him going. Hotaka texted the guy, saying he didn't care if they stole it. It was worthless to him now anyway. He thought it would be appreciated at first, though. Reversal routes are for protagonists, which is completely unrelated to a mob character like him. He then thought to himself that ever since he got hooked on games in high school, his life changed 180 degrees. Though he didn't want to disappoint his mom and dad who believed in him, it seemed like he already had. The guy, Dimensional Genesis, texted Hotaka again, telling him not to worry about it. He loved the game he thought up, but it seemed like everyone had a different opinion. Suddenly, to Hotaka's surprise, a countdown appeared in front of his screen. He was shocked. He thought it was some kind of virus, but he realized it wasn't just him. Panic soaked the air as people saw the strange countdowns appearing on all computers in the company. They all had the same thought, maybe it was hacking, so they thought of calling the security department. But as soon as the countdown reached 0, another message appeared. Welcome to the real world. Final chapter, the beginning or the end. A voice then echoed, telling them that the game had a 99.8% mortality rate, so they should have a happy death. Then bang! The building trembled, the ground broke, the roof shattered. Maybe it was an earthquake, they thought. Hotaka looked closely at his screen. He realized the title was the final chapter of the game he planned. Then, from behind him, he heard a scream. It was a monster. What's more surprising was that it appeared on the 20th floor. Someone told them to calm down. It must be a balloon or something, or probably a movie promotion, so there must be cameras somewhere. But to their surprise, the monster broke through the window. Everyone ran frantically as they realized this was no joke, it was real. The monster ate the first 3 people lagging behind, chewing their bones to paste. People ran. Now they lost all sense of reasoning. Someone shouted saying they should quickly call the police, but another disagreed. The police couldn't do anything about this, just run. Somewhere in the office, Dimensional Genesis wished Hotaka happy birthday through text. He apologized, saying he tried his best, but some escaped. Then the PC went off. Hotaka was part of those running. He had no idea what was happening, but he decided not to think about it since there was no time. He needed to hurry home anyway. He called his sister Nozomi. She picked up and asked him with a stuttering tone what was happening. Still running, he told her that no matter what, She should not open the door, he'd be right back, so she should hide under the bed with Dad and the others. She replied understood. The call then ended. He was happy the call went through since there was barely any signal. Next, he decided to call Yukirin, but he wondered if he even had the right to call since he was the one who said they should break up. Well, he called anyway since now wasn't the time to think about such things. But then, before the call could go through, a monster broke through in front of them and took out those in the front. The monster then faced them. The manager, seeing there was no way out, pushed Hotaka to the monster, telling him to become bait for them instead. They appreciated his noble sacrifice. They'd at least offer him some incense. Surprised, Hotaka was about to fall into the monster's mouth. There was nothing he could do but let fate choose its course. Then a missile shot at the monster. The force changed the monster's mouth trajectory and also pushed Hotaka a few distances away, and he fell to the ground, injured. At that moment, he recalled telling Yukirin they should break up. Even though they were childhood friends, she was a wealthy family's daughter, and things had been getting tough for him. They lived in completely different worlds. He told her that, though he might be a coward, he wasn't an idiot who couldn't tell that unlike her who walked the protagonist route. He was aware that he was just a mob character. But then, he woke up, surprised to see himself alive amidst the ruined buildings. Though he was still injured, his left arm was broken and he couldn't feel his right leg. His head hurt and he was a mess. He stood up, tried to walk with the aid of a broken rod. He wondered why he suddenly remembered that breakup. Did he hit his head or something? But if he was alive, he couldn't give up since Nozomi and the others were waiting for him, so he absolutely had to go back. Now he was certain that the world had changed and the game world had become reality. But the thing he had no idea about was why it had the same name as the game he planned. He wondered if maybe the game he planned had become reality, but he deemed that impossible. Sometime later, as he arrived at his house, he saw that the building had been destroyed, his mom and dad both dead, buried under the ruins of memories. And now his sister was being eaten alive by a monster. Tears dripped down his face as he saw the gruesome scene before him. He ran with the iron in his hand to take down the monster, completely forgetting about his broken leg. At that moment, he wondered, out of the countless games in the world, why did it have to be his that became reality? He blamed himself for killing the world and killing his family. The monster then pierced its tongue through Hotaka's chest. At his moment of death, Hotaka laughed. He wondered why bad things always had to happen to him. He just wanted to change his fate. He was just working hard to reach his goal. Couldn't mob characters like him be allowed to dream? The monster then activated its tongue's special skill, cutting Hotaka's body to pieces. Hotaka apologized to everyone, promising to atone for his sins if he was reborn. And so, as usual, the regular reincarnation trope, he gasped as he woke up in an assembly filled with students. Surprised, they looked at him. Some guys laughed, mockingly asking him what was wrong. Did he have a weird dream? The supervisor then told them all through a speaker to be quiet. Today was the second most important day for them, third years after the university entrance exam, so they should pay attention. Hotaka was surprised to see he had come back to high school. He really was reborn. The supervisor then told them they should begin the awakening ceremony. Seeing how different the place was, he realized it was completely different from the world he was in before, but he deemed that not to matter since he was reborn. In this life, he decided to escape from his mob's fate, and he'd grab his destiny with his own hands. But then, he heard a loud clock sound from the sky. As he looked back, he was shocked to see that the world would end in 190 days, 16 hours, 35 minutes. He never expected to see the same countdown as he saw in his previous life. He wondered why he was seeing that again if he was supposed to be reborn. He then asked one of his classmates if he could see the countdown floating in the sky, but the guy had no idea what he was talking about. Hotaka then realized he was the only one who could see it. That meant he wasn't reborn, but he regressed. Just like his proposal, Chapter 1 starts in the high school courtyard. He took a pause, wondering how he could stop the world's collapse in just 190 days, how he could avoid letting his family die twice. He then heard a voice, announcing that his new player registration had been confirmed. Appropriate talent would be assigned to him, based on his characteristics, so he should please wait. Minutes later, the talent assignment was complete, and he was given the talent, Genesis Ruler. He was surprised to see it was a protagonist correction. Immediately, the clock in the sky shifted. It then stopped. Hotaka was surprised to see that the remaining countdown could change. He wondered if it was because he got the protagonist correction. The system then told him that Genesis Ruler is a special hidden talent, and it's the only one that exists in the world. It has no fixed characteristics and can copy and fuse other talents by consuming star spirits to gain new abilities. His copy limit is now 4. He was surprised to see his copy limit was 4 since the initial setting was 1 talent per person, but now he can hold 4 at the same time. Maybe it's the planner's privilege, he thought. If that's the case, doesn't it contradict the setting? It's trying to destroy the world with my game, but it's giving me the power to stop it. What's the mastermind's goal? He wondered. Could it be the guy he was chatting with? Dimensional Genesis? He deemed that not to be the case since he was just an online friend with a weird name, so he thought maybe he was probably overthinking it. More importantly, there's something he needed to do. He would have to extend the countdown, to survive no matter what and stop the world's destruction. But first, he decided to confirm something urgently. He ran, making people wonder what was going on. They told him he'd get into trouble. Hotaka didn't care. All that mattered was if his sister, dad, and mom existed in this reconstructed world. He wondered if he could clear away his regrets. He had no memories of living in this world at all. If they didn't regress with him, he had no idea what he would do. In front of him, a girl called him Big Brother. Immediately, he hugged her tightly. He was happy. Now he could atone for his sins. He'd never let anyone hurt her again. He'd definitely protect her. She blushed shyly and told him to stop. Don't you see we're in front of all the students? He then asked her if their dad and the others were doing well. She was surprised by the question, then replied, Of course they're fine. What's wrong with you? You should hurry back, everyone's watching. Someone from above then angrily asked Hotaka, What is a third year like him doing in the first year line? He should return to his own class immediately. Hotaka replied, Yes, sir. But then, he noticed that the teacher looked exactly like the annoying manager from his previous life. He wondered if it was also the effect of the world being reconstructed. If that's the case, he was curious about what position he had in this world. The man then told him to wait. He should come on stage like that and do the awakening ceremony. He also told Higure Yukiran to come up as well since they were the only third years left. Yukiran stepped forward as instructed. Hotaka was surprised to see her. He grinned slightly since she was still the same. Her shampoo scent and her noble aura that kept everyone away hadn't changed. Someone in the crowd then commented, It seems like things will be interesting since an honor student and a failure student will be awakening together. Serves him right for being childhood friends with the school's idol. Someone added, Yukiran won't talk to any guy except that trash Hotaka, so they have no chance with her. Yukiran then asked Hotaka if he would become a laughingstock or shut them all up. Hotaka replied, Of course I'll blow everyone's mind. But then he said to himself that he didn't have time for romance right now. Even though the countdown increased by a year, he was still not in the safe zone and couldn't let his guard down. The instructor then announced through the mic that in order to help them understand the importance of the exam ceremony, he'd explain again. With the birth of star spirits, all humans now possess talents. The school's purpose is to discover and properly nurture talents, and the most important thing for those talents is the star rank, the only indicator that determines talent strength. Star rank goes from 100 to 0. The smaller the number, the stronger, with 0 being the strongest. It reflects all their efforts so far and becomes the most important indicator for determining their future life direction. He continued, I won't say who, but anyone fooling around on such an important day has basically thrown their life away. Of course, everyone knew he was talking to Hotaka. The ceremony process is simple, he added. They should put their hand in the star measuring device, and the talent inside their body will illuminate the stars inside. The brighter the star, the higher the star rank. Once awakened, the school will give them 100 points worth of spirits for rank upgrades. They should not underestimate the 100 points. It's the average monthly salary of a working adult. Yukiran then placed her hand inside. It glowed brightly, and her star rank turned out to be 16, Alpha Virginis. People were surprised to see that an A class under the age of 20 came from their school, since A class is proof of being super elite. Now the expectations for Hotaka had increased. The audience didn't believe in him though. They thought he'd probably get the title Gigolo King, since there was nothing to expect of him. Nozomi asked them if they were jealous since they couldn't even become gigolos, so they should shut up. They were nothing but second years. She then wished for her brother to do his best. He's excellent and has worked hard, and he's not someone who hides in Yukiran's shadow. Hotaka placed his hand inside, then said to himself that something as unfair as star rank didn't exist in his game. Though it was cruel, it was realistic to predetermine talent limits and rank human worth. But then, he was surprised to see that his star rank couldn't be awakened. The students laughed in mockery to see his awakened result. He didn't even have talent. Even dogs and pigs have talents, they mocked. That means he's lower than a pig or dog. Hotaka was speechless. He said to himself in disbelief that he ended up shocking everyone in a different way. The system then informed him that the talent passive skill, Star Drain, had been activated. It had absorbed 5,000 points of star spirits from the star measuring device. Now he has one skill use remaining. Hotaka was shocked. He never expected Genesis Ruler to be able to do that. He had stolen all the star spirits that were inside the star measuring device. The Academy equipment officers were surprised to see that something had gone wrong with the machine. They couldn't believe it had broken. It was the first time such a thing had happened, and it was also the highest grade equipment they had received from the mayor, so they hurried to check it. Minutes later, one of the equipment officers was surprised to see that the star spirits were completely empty. He couldn't believe his eyes since he had filled it to the max before the ceremony, so it was impossible for everything to disappear. The supervisor scolded them, telling them they should refill the star spirits quickly if they had figured out the cause. The officer hesitated, saying the measuring device required a large amount of star spirits and cost quite a bit, so they'd need the principal's permission. The supervisor scolded persistently, saying that the principal was on a business trip and all authority on campus had been delegated to him, so he'd better do as he was told or take responsibility if the ceremony was disrupted. The officer finally accepted. The man grinned internally, wanting to embarrass Hotaka, who was always making fools of the teachers. Once his star rank was displayed, he'd be the first to laugh at him. Hotaka could feel the evil plan coming from the supervisor. Well, since the supervisor had decided to let him go for a second trial, which was no different from full service, he decided to use it to the fullest. The system then announced that he had absorbed 7,000 points of star spirits, and since he had exceeded 10,000 points, unique storage had been unlocked. Now the passive skill had gone on cooldown. The officers were shocked to see that the machine had stopped working again. The star spirits inside were empty. The supervisor immediately shifted the blame. He asked the officer how he was going to explain breaking such expensive equipment to the mayor. Immediately, he told the officer that he had nothing to do with it, just to be clear. The officer, frightened, told the supervisor they didn't break it. It had been working just fine until a moment ago. The supervisor scolded, "Don't make excuses, you incompetents. Hurry up and activate the trial dungeon to proceed to the next step." The officer couldn't hide his disgust and anger, but he did as instructed and pressed the button to open the dungeon. The supervisor announced that since they had just awakened, their link value was low and they couldn't fully use their talent yet, so he had created a trial dungeon for them all. In there, they would raise their link value and train their talents to prepare for the university entrance exams. All third years would be entering. However, he continued, Hotaka, someone without a star rank, had no right to enter the dungeon, so he had missed the greatest opportunity before the exams. It would serve as punishment for his unusual behavior, he said, then advised the underclassmen not to end up like Hotaka. All the third years were excited to enter the dungeon, ready to go wild. Some mocked Hotaka, who couldn't participate, wanting to use this chance to get stronger and look down on him completely. Hotaka wasn't worried at all, but he deemed the situation a typical textbook negative start. Yukiran asked him, "Didn't you say earlier that you would blow everyone's mind? I thought you made decent preparations, so what's with your pathetic results?" He told her it's fine, it's just a small setback. He hoped she wasn't disappointed by something this minor. She didn't reply. Then suddenly, a wannabe hero interrupted their conversation. He told Yukirin that if her future and reputation were important to her, she should team up with him instead of an incompetent person like Hotaka. Someone like him with rank and status was more suitable for her than anyone else. The guy's name was William. Level 15 talent, swordsmanship, link value 50, star rank 41, and combat power 18. He was the heir to the William group. If he succeeded the group, he'd be equal to Yukirin both economically and in combat power. He approached her and said with his ugly face that they were the ones chosen by God as the ideal protagonists. But then Yukirin activated her energy, scaring the life out of him. Her stats were at least 3.5 times greater than his. She told him in a sharp tone to disappear from her sight. Immediately, he ran like a mad dog toward the entrance together with his teammates, knowing they'd definitely be killed if they stayed there any longer. But the guy wasn't ready to take such an insult and was determined to kill her in the dungeon. Yukirin then walked toward Hotaka and told him that he was wrong about one thing. She wasn't disappointed, she was just frustrated. He had been working hard in the shadows all this time. But it's fine, she said. As long as one of us becomes strong, that's enough. So that we can both survive in this chaotic world. I'll keep getting stronger. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone hurt you. Well, that same phrase was something he told her when they were little. Hotaka, stunned by her words, wondered if he had made the wrong decision somewhere. He was seriously about to become a gigolo king. The supervisor then announced that all third years except Hotaka had entered the dungeon, so today's school assembly ended there. But then, the equipment officer commented through the speaker, saying that such junk that arbitrarily decides people's lives should just break. If your star rank is high, you stand above others, and if it's low, you can only serve those above you. This unfair and unchangeable fate, don't you all think it's wrong? Don't you want to rebel against it? The supervisor scolded him, asking if he had lost his mind to be acting on his own. The officer replied, "What do you mean? Of course I went crazy because of you in this world." He then activated his energy, sending the supervisor flying. He transformed from a human into a monster with an increase of 10 levels, now at level 35. Other mutated personnel arrived one by one. The supervisor asked if those from the equipment department were performing a coup while the principal was not around, since they had even undergone beast transformation. The officer replied, "Yeah, what we're rebelling against is the unfair fate imposed on us. After enduring for years at this school, we finally got our hands on high-star material so we don't have to endure anymore." He swallowed the material and told everyone that he'd kill them. The students ran frantically in fear as the mutated humans began to eat them alive. Immediately, the countdown shortened by 20 days. Just so you guys know, I think there's an issue in the translation. I don't know if it's 1 year and something days or 190 days, which got shortened by 20 days, and now 170 days are left. Hotaka was surprised by this sudden decrease, since it wasn't written in his initial proposal. Now he finally realized that not everything goes according to plan, so it looked like he'd have to adapt on the fly. Randomly copying talents here would be too much of a gamble, so he decided to find another way to survive. He then activated the system's unique storage while running. The system started up. 5 weapons, armor, items, and 1 gift had been unlocked. Hotaka knew too well that weapons and armor required corresponding talent to use, so they were useless to him without any talents, but he had no idea what the gift was. Either way, he opened the gift. A message appeared. The gifter told him that he had left presents in various places as a celebration for his rebirth, so he should find them, they'd definitely be useful. The gift in question was an Academy special map. When used, it unlocked all information about the terrain, treasure chests, hidden maps, hidden missions, unlock methods, and more within the Academy. The sale price was 10,000 points. His current points were 12,000. Hotaka was happy for such a gift. Though it was expensive, he deemed it useful, so he decided to buy it right away. He then consumed 10,000 points. He decided to locate his sister. Immediately, the navigation began, directing him to the designated location where his sister was. He deemed the navigation amazing, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to find his sister in all this chaos. Minutes later, he saw his sister helping other students. He immediately grabbed her hand and told her they should go. They'd be hiding in a safe place. But then the system activated, informing him that a copyable talent had been detected. His sister, level 8 talent, unawakened. Her star rank was 15 Alpha Antares. He was surprised. He never expected her star rank to be so high. The system then asked him if he would like to spend 2,000 points to copy the talent. Hotaka was surprised to see that his sister's star rank is higher than Yukirin's. He then told the system to tell him about this world's combat power mechanics. The system explained, a player's combat power is determined by 3 factors: star rank, level, and link value. The higher the star rank, the stronger the talent becomes, the more star spirits you gain after battles, the faster you can rank up. However, ranking up your star rank comes with a cost. Also, level is an indicator that comprehensively reflects a player's various stats. There's no upper limit, so theoretically it can be raised infinitely. Link value is an important number related to star rank and level that determines the upper limit of your final combat power. The maximum is 10,000 points and can be enhanced using star spirits. The calculation formula is quite simple. Level, star rank, and link value all multiplied together equals combat power. Hotaka thought about it. Though it's a bit complex, from a planner's perspective, it looks rational and well-balanced. Although star rank determines the upper limit, he refused to believe it can't be raised. In contrast, level plays the role of supporting the lower limit, and link value is the bridge connecting them. While unfairness determined by heaven exists, means to overcome it also exist, which is a good worldview. So Hotaka wondered what exactly is his star rank. If smaller numbers are stronger, is his star rank 0? The system told him the world's strongest is star rank 0, the sun. And, as for his Genesis ruler talent, it exists outside the world's natural order, so his star rank isn't 0 but infinite. Hotaka was surprised by this news. He laughed. He never expected to exceed the world's maximum value, so he asked the system if the world won't crash like a server. The system told him he's half correct and half incorrect. In this world, infinite doesn't mean strength but possibility. In simple terms, infinite possibilities. The system continued, telling Hotaka that his strength is determined by the star spirits he possesses and the talents he has copied. Now, the system asked him if he would copy his sister's A-class talent with a star rank of 15. Suddenly, a mutated monster appeared. The mutation added an additional level of 10 to his initial level 20. He had a star rank value of 65% and a link value of 100. Combat power, 48. Now he was determined to take revenge against all those so-called geniuses who looked down on him. Everyone ran frantically, but Nozomi couldn't run, frozen in fear, but she could still move her hands, though there was nothing she could do. The monster then punched at her with a determination to kill, but as usual, the brother came to the rescue. Hotaka blocked the punch with a punch, the impact intense. The mutated man wasn't scared since Hotaka is known to be a piece of trash without a star rank, so he was certain to turn him into tiny pieces right away. But then, to his surprise, his hand shattered. He screamed in pain. He couldn't believe that a piece of trash who couldn't even awaken had so much power. Hotaka told him he had no clue what he's talking about. He was able to fight against the monster since he had copied his sister's talent. His combat link value is 500 star rank, 16 Alpha Antares, with a combat power value of 533. After copying all the talents, Hotaka felt completely different from before, power overflowing through his whole body. So he deemed the 2,000 points he spent to be worth it. The monster, furious, thought Hotaka's attack might be a fluke, so he went for another strike. He couldn't believe a mutated person like him would lose to a trash. But Hotaka swiftly dodged the strike and climbed onto the guy's face. The guy immediately pleaded, telling Hotaka to wait. He was just being threatened. Hotaka wasn't ready to listen to his plea since he tried to hurt his sister, and he seriously tried to punch her. He then obliterated the guy's upper body with a single strike. Everyone was surprised to see he took down a mutated monster with just 2 hits. The system informed him that he had defeated a beast and earned 50 points. He earned an additional 50 points as a result of Genesis Ruler, passive skill, Star Spirit's multiplication. His sister excitedly asked him when he got so strong. Just last week he was getting blown away by her backdrops. Kind of flustered, he told her now is not the time for that, they should go to a social safe spot. He then dragged her away, but the other students ran along with them. She asked him, where are they headed to? He told her they should hide somewhere safe for now, they'll talk after that. Surprised, she asked why they should hide. Shouldn't they leave the school and call for help? He told her that since the beasts launched an attack, they won't be able to escape that easily. So there should be traps set at the school's gate. The students who arrived at the gate were surprised to see a light that wasn't there before. Scared, someone asked if they would turn into chunks of meat if they touched it. As usual, a wannabe hero stepped forward, overconfident in his own arrogance. He called the other students cowards for being scared, so he stepped out of the barrier himself. At first nothing happened, but then his body began squeezing and exploded into paste. As blood touched the students' faces, fear sank in deep. But then, those who were stricken by fear ended up mutating as their sanity level dropped to 0%. Hotaka then got a warning message that sanity levels directly affect combat power, so to display maximum strength, he should maintain sanity above 90%. Hotaka was surprised by this sudden news. He had never created such a sanity system. Now, realizing there are so many incomprehensible systems, it means even if he can copy talents, being broke means he has no room to spare. So right now he needs to hurry and collect as many star spirits as possible. He deemed himself fortunate to be able to see everyone's sanity, so he could avoid danger by only saving people above the safe threshold, since sanity is star spirits plus rationality. So when it drops, combat power decreases, and in the worst case, you mutate. Anyway, his first priority was to find a safe place right now. He then asked the system if it had any recommendations. The system began searching the special map, and it found one absolutely safe location, the gymnasium, a hidden minigame. Hotaka recognized the place, but then, they heard a voice from behind. Nozomi paused as she recognized the voice. It was a girl whose sanity level had dropped to 25%. Nozomi tried to run to help her, but Hotaka told her to stop. It was already late. She disagreed, saying as long as it hasn't dropped below 10%, there's still a possibility of saving her. She was eager to save her since the girl, Mina, was her friend, so she couldn't just let her die like that. She brought out a headset and connected it to her phone, telling Mina to calm down. She'll raise her sanity level right now, so she should put the headset on. The app Nozomi was using is called Silver Key. The system was developed for those who are physically and mentally exhausted from years of overtime work, and unfortunate individuals who have witnessed unpleasant things. If you feel your sanity rapidly declining, your emotions becoming uncontrollable, and the star spirits inside your body going berserk, the app must be used immediately. Also, using official headphones can provide higher vibration. The price is 100 points per year. There are 4 modes in the app. The first is Relax mode. The recommended sanity level is 100 to 80%. The second is Stress Relief mode. The recommended sanity level is from 80 to 60%. The third mode is Sanity Control, with a recommended sanity level of 60 to 30%. Finally, the fourth mode is Emergency Sanity Recovery. Recommended sanity level is 30 to 10%. Hotaka was also looking at the app on the phone. He never expected there to be a cheat like that. It would definitely make good business. He was amazed at how the essence of seeking profit doesn't change in any world. Mina hit the headset away, telling Nozomi not to come near her. The headset broke, and then Mina mutated as her sanity level dropped to 0. Nozomi panicked. She knew she wouldn't be able to dodge the attack in time. She fell to the ground in fear. Mina decided to strike with her tentacles, but before they could reach her, Hotaka stopped them and told Nozomi to hide behind him since Mina was beyond help already. Hotaka then forcefully pulled out the tentacles and smashed her stomach with his knee. He clenched his fist and punched her straight into the wall, wanting to take her out of her misery. The body collided and exploded to paste. Hotaka then got a message that he had defeated a mutant, earning him 20 points. Nozomi apologized to Hotaka, saying she knew she was a burden this time. She gets called stupid or a saint because she can't abandon her softness and she's self-centered. But the problem isn't being soft, it's being weak, she said with a depressed tone while on her knees. Because she's weak, her beliefs also look ridiculous. But since he's strong, she strongly begged him to save many people. Just this once, he should do her this favor. Hotaka was speechless for a moment. He knew that with her kind heart and strong will, someday she'll become incredibly powerful, so he'll definitely keep protecting her until she can stand on her own. Immediately, the mission updated. It was for him to save students. He should save as many as possible. He can gain 50 points per person. Hotaka grinned, calling the system a good guy. He stretched his hand forward and told his sister not to worry. He'll be there for her any time for life. Whatever choice she makes, he'll support her with everything he has, so she should stand up. They should go save everyone together. She smiled and grabbed his hand. As they ran, she asked him what they should do now. He replied that they should avoid combat while gathering the scattered students and hide in a safe place. She asked if he meant the underground shelter the school prepared for evacuation. He replied no, that place can only handle external attacks. The mutated teachers know everything about the school, so it's far from safe and the most dangerous place to hide. The place he's thinking about is a place that seems dangerous, but is actually absolutely safe. The gymnasium. Inside the gymnasium, many students were gathered there crying. They didn't want to die. Some were panicking, while some were consoling and organizing the others, telling them to calm down. The gymnasium hadn't been targeted yet. They didn't know when they'd attack, so they shouldn't let their guard down. Someone then asked what that bastard Hotaka was planning by gathering them in such a place. Hotaka thought to himself, thanks to the map he bought, he could perfectly grasp everyone's information. All of them now had the same sanity level, and they all had talents useful for his strategy. Also, it's way more efficient to collect star spirits by saving people in groups, rather than one by one. A guy, Nida Takeshi, level 3, his talent is logic construction, star rank is 25, Gamma Crux. He walked forward and told Hotaka that although he agreed with catching the enemy off guard, they'd eventually be found, and there's a high chance of being wiped out. So what is he planning to do? He'll leave if it's an irrational strategy. Other students agreed, saying they followed Hotaka because of Takeshi, the honor student. Not a good-for-nothing like him. Hotaka walked to where the basketballs were, then told them that he understood what everyone wanted to say, but they shouldn't worry. He'll definitely save everyone. Curiously, someone asked how. He should tell them the method. Hotaka took a ball and told them it's hidden in the basketball. Confidently, he said to them, "Haven't you guys heard about this gymnasium school ghost story?" The whole students erupted into a chorus of screams and questions the moment the idea was raised. They shouted at Hotaka. What was he even talking about? A school ghost story about the gymnasium? How did that help them now? Takashi, never one for subtlety, demanded to know whether Hotaka had dragged them here to save them or to tell some incomprehensible bedtime tale. The rest echoed the sentiment. Either Hotaka explained himself, or they weren't going along with this circus. Then Nozomi stepped forward and shut down the complaints like a referee stopping a brawl. She told them to stop whining. They had survived so far because of Big Brother Hotaka, she reminded them, and even though they hadn't escaped the crisis, yet there was nothing inherently wrong with his judgment. Trust him. He'll save everyone. A few students rallied behind her, pointing out Hotaka's track record. He'd apparently defeated a beast in one hit, the kind of fact that gets you forgiven for a lot. The opposing students bristled and threw insults. Fists started twitching. Hotaka, of course, chose that exact moment to put on a show. He told them this was no time for fighting, then proceeded to demonstrate skills nobody asked for. The students sighed. Really, of all times to be theatrical. But Hotaka kept going. This, he announced, was merely a warm-up. His plan? Overcome the crisis using basketball. Yes, basketball. The room correctly reacted, as if Hotaka had announced he planned to extinguish a forest fire with a candle. Takashi, the calm centerpiece of the bunch, made a choice. Takashi declared he'd bet on irrational life over rational death. He'd stay and watch whatever miracle Hotaka was planning unfold. Once Takashi, the most respected student among them, committed, the dissenters folded like cheap chairs and agreed to stay too. Hotaka inwardly noted Takashi's steady judgment and thought to himself this leadership angle had been worth it. Just then, a lanky, zombie-looking student shuffled up to Hotaka and offered to help. He boasted basketball skill. Hotaka waved him off. This one was his to handle alone. Then, in classic show-off fashion, Hotaka reached out and shook the guy's hand. The kid's name was Kawhi, level 12, second-year basketball ace with a star rank of 86. The handshake wasn't just friendly. Hotaka copied Kawhi's basketball talent. Not satisfied, Hotaka tapped a pretty girl on the shoulder, which made her blush, and, in the same casual motion, copied her high hit rate skill too. The system, because of course there's a system, informed him that copying a skill consumed 500 points, and that he now had one more talent slot available. The system also announced a fusion. 2 talents would combine into a single enhancement talent. The fusion completed, and boom, Hotaka's appearance and aura shifted. He now looked every inch the basketball prodigy. Students unfamiliar with how Hotaka had just done a metagame talent theft stared in stunned awe. Hotaka didn't pause to soak up praise. He sprinted with a basketball, twisted in midair, and nailed a perfect shot. People started asking incredulously how a non-club kid could make that move. Someone grumbled that layups weren't that hard, but before they could fully moan, Hotaka leapt from the free throw line and dunked. Then he hit a perfect three-pointer. The gym went from doom and gloom to halftime show in the span of 3 baskets. Takashi watched and thought, if Hotaka isn't showing off, then what is he really plotting? Hotaka then explained, not out loud so much as the narrator spilling the cheat code, that the gym had hidden properties. Shoot from designated spots in specific ways, and you open a completely isolated space. A hidden realm where monsters can't see or attack you. That's the gym ghost story. It's not spooky folklore, it's a game mechanic. Hearing this, Takashi's disbelief flipped to hope. Hotaka didn't explain how he knew. He'd bought that knowledge with 10,000 points. It was basically a mini-game purchased off-screen. Doing it in front of 100 students, alone and under pressure. But Hotaka was doing it anyway. He backed up, launched a shot from half-court, and the ball thundered through the net. The students erupted. This was no fluke. It was pure, practice skill. If Hotaka kept this up, they might actually be safe. But Hotaka warned them, it wasn't over. More successful shots were required before the hidden space would manifest. The final shot was the key. He moved back to prepare the next decisive throw. At that precise moment, the tension escalated outside. Some students saw multiple monsters charging at full speed toward the school. Screams and chaos followed. 3 beasts were coming, they shouted, headed straight for the gym. Panic spread. A few sensible kids said outside would be suicide, while others ran madly in all directions like marbles escaping a shaken jar. Girls with a deer's survival instinct froze in prayer, instead of running narrator's note, bad plan, and begged for salvation like it owed them a favor. Takashi and a handful of students grabbed tables to form a barricade against the incoming monsters, buying time by brute force and blind hope. Takashi turned toward Hotaka with desperation in his voice. Finish the shots, open the hidden space, they had no choice. If Hotaka failed, they'd all die. The weight of that reality was obvious. Hotaka wasn't playing. He lined up, cocked, and launched another deafening shot. The students watched in suspended prayer as the ball sailed. Outside, the monsters were almost on top of the gym. One of them snarled that foolish humans were hiding in the gymnasium and all deserved to die. Inside, sanity frayed fast. The barricade holders shouted that they were at their limit and begged Hotaka to complete the final shot. The football sliced through the air like it had an ego of its own, spinning in slow motion as if it wanted everyone to admire its perfect trajectory. Every student froze in suspense, breathing like malfunctioning robots, until bang, the ball slammed into the net, bursting into a golden light like it just ascended to football heaven. The old gymnasium responded like a forgotten deity waking from a nap, glowing so bright it probably blinded a few unlucky eyes. And just like that, the system casually informed Hotaka that the hidden minigame, Gymnasium Ghost Story, had been cleared. Unfortunately, celebration time got cancelled because somewhere outside, the monsters finally broke through the barricades with the enthusiasm of unpaid interns on revenge mode. They charged in, howling about how the humans would scream and beg, declaring their buffet officially open. But when they stormed into the gym, ready for the main course, they found absolutely nothing. No students, no screams, just a glowing, empty hall mocking them in silence. One particularly dramatic monster smashed the ground and yelled what the hell was going on because clearly his PhD in human hunting didn't prepare him for invisibility tricks. The humans had escaped. Unacceptable. Furious, the monsters stomped off to search for new victims, probably hoping for a less humiliating scene next time. Meanwhile, inside the hidden space, the students were basically holding their collective breath, staring at the monsters right in front of them without being noticed. When the beasts left, the humans finally let out their screams, of joy this time. They had survived. Barely, but still. Hotaka received a notification that he'd rescued 180 students, earning 9,000 points. His eyes gleamed like a man who just saw his tax refund. 9,000 points, massive. The students swarmed him like fans spotting a celebrity at a mall, showering him with apologies and praise. Apparently, he was their savior now. Some even pledged lifelong loyalty, which was cute until a few girls started whispering that if he wasn't dating Nozomi, maybe, just maybe, they had a shot. Delusional optimism, thy name is high school romance. Meanwhile, Takashi, the resident genius who acted allergic to friendship, actually extended a handshake. The entire student body short-circuited in disbelief. Takashi, offering a handshake? The same Takashi who'd rather dissect emotions than express them? Historic moment. Hotaka took the handshake, shrugging it off like it was no big deal. He simply said it was fine, but there were still more students to save. The system informed him about Takashi's copyable talent, logic construction, star rank 25. Hotaka considered it but passed. Sure, it was useful, but logic doesn't exactly kill monsters, and right now he needed things that did. Takashi adjusted his glasses like an anime philosopher and told Hotaka he was impressed but couldn't understand why Hotaka hadn't done all this from the start. Charging beasts head-on without a strategy wasn't exactly Nobel-worthy. Takashi's eye twitched. Clearly he wasn't impressed with motivational nonsense. Then, because the universe loves timing, a massive chest appeared, glowing like treasure in an RPG no one asked for. Hotaka approached it with zero hesitation, announcing that he'd be taking it since he cleared the mission. No objections from the peanut gallery, just a collective nod of admiration. He opened the chest, and light burst out like it was auditioning for a divine spotlight. The system rewarded him with 500 star spirit points and a new weapon, the Lightbow Sanga. A divine relic forged for show-offs apparently, blessed by the god of light and perfect for vaporizing dark, undead, and demonic nuisances. The students gawked. Some muttered they wished they could wield something that epic. But one girl, Vivi, stared a little longer than the rest. Vivi, level 10 Ashirian, star rank 53, though she didn't know either, felt something stir. That bow, her dream weapon. Too bad it wasn't hers. Hotaka, being observant for once, thought the same thing. That girl was special. Perfect match for the bow's attribute. He extended a hand and told her they should work together. Vivi blushed so hard it could have powered a light bulb. She stammered through a greeting while her brain took a hard left into fantasy, marriage, kids, the whole sitcom package. Girl had her own anime running in her head while Hotaka just wanted to copy a talent. After copying her Ashirian talent, Hotaka spent 800 points to fuse talents of the same attribute. His body lit up like a malfunctioning sun, leaving the students gawking as if witnessing a divine rebirth. When the glow faded, Hotaka had transformed into a light ranger. Basically, a battle lord, or in simpler terms, someone finally ready to stop being a punching bag. He smiled inwardly. Time for the counterattack. Hotaka moved to the other side of the school, where chaos reigned supreme. A monster taunted a terrified boy, telling him to run for entertainment. But before it could finish its villain monologue, 3 arrows struck its face and chest, cutting the speech short. The creature hit the ground with an unflattering thud. The student looked up, stunned to see Hotaka standing heroically against the light. The kid thanked him, but the moment was short-lived. Hotaka sensed danger, barked at the student to duck, then unleashed a volley of arrows that shredded incoming monsters before they could blink. Efficient, brutal, stylish. The bow and Ashirian talent synced perfectly, unlocking new skills, multi-arrow and chase arrow. Multi-arrow allowed him to fire up to 3 arrows at once, because apparently one wasn't enough. Chase arrow? The arrow equivalent of a stalker. It tracked its target no matter where they ran. Hotaka's eyes narrowed as he spotted another monster trying to chew on a student. He jumped, took aim, and fired a chase arrow. The projectile curved mid-air, found its target, and decapitated the monster's jaw like a hot knife through chaos. He turned to the remaining students, his tone sharp but honest. Once anyone mutates, there's no turning back. No hero speeches, no miracles, just run. The students nodded, terrified but obedient. They scattered as Hotaka resumed his hunt, arrows raining like divine retribution. He had slain 4 beasts and 1 mutant, earning another 500 points. The system informed him that it was compiling the data, because apparently even divine game systems need a moment to calculate just how ridiculous his kill count had become. The final tally rolled in like a victory announcement. 780 students rescued, 38 beasts defeated, 68 mutants obliterated, 42,000 star spirits earned. Only one beast left, the last one, the final boss. The final boss meant one thing, either glory or a very embarrassing death. Sadly, he was completely out of gas. His breathing sounded like an old generator, and his energy bar was begging for retirement. He ordered the system to open his unique storage, and the options popped up like a cosmic shop menu designed by sadists. Evil Slayer for 50,000 points. Orbital Cannon for 80,000. Ground Fire, because why not add something that sounds like friendly fire? Hotaka stared at the screen and nearly laughed. He thought he was rich. Turns out, he was just window shopping in the divine poverty lane. But then, finally, something practical appeared. An epic recovery potion. 200 points per bottle, or 500 for 3. The catch? It was ridiculously overpriced, but desperate times call for terrible financial decisions. So, like any self-respecting broke hero, he bought 3 bottles and muttered about inflation as he gulped one down. Warm power surged through him like caffeine on steroids. His fatigue vanished, his pulse steadied, and for a brief, glorious moment, he felt untouchable. Infinite power, 5-minute duration. Classic scam buff. He grinned, muttering inwardly that if he was going to crash, he'd at least crash with style. Then he bolted toward the library, because of course the final boss had to choose the creepiest place in school. Inside the library, chaos was already unfolding. The final boss, a hulking monster with too many limbs and even more ego, had Lena pinned in a corner. It was demanding access to the Academy's secret treasure vault, promising to let her live if she complied. Lena, despite her fear, snapped that only she and the principal even knew of its existence. But the creature laughed, revealing that the principal himself had spilled the secret, begging for his life like a coward. Sure enough, the principal was there, groveling, apologizing to Lena for being strict, blabbering that he only told the monster to save himself. The betrayal dripped from his words like oil. Lena's fury could have set the bookshelves ablaze. She yelled that he was a traitor, that some things were never meant to be sold out no matter the cost. But the monster wasn't interested in loyalty speeches. It mocked her ideals, sneering that she was clinging to a dying academy run by fools. The heretic court, it boasted, had already blessed him with this monstrous body, proof that power, real power, didn't come from principles but submission. Lena's glare hardened. She spat back that the treasures of Rixon Academy were sacred, earned through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. They weren't bargaining chips. The monster chuckled, amused by her defiance, and promised that, if words didn't work, he'd simply break her mind until she gave in. Its claws reached for her, ready to crush her resolve, and then, bang! An arrow sliced through the air, splitting the monster's tongue mid-sentence. Another pair followed, drilling through its eyes before it could even roar. The creature screamed, staggering back, clutching at its face as black ichor dripped down. In panic, it conjured a third eye on its shoulder, because why not double down on nightmare fuel, and scanned the room furiously. Hotaka stepped out from the shadows, his bow still glowing. He didn't need a speech. His fist did the talking, smashing straight into the monster's skull with enough force to redecorate the wall behind it. The impact hurled the beast across the library, sending books and ancient memories flying everywhere. As the dust settled, Lena gasped at the sight of him. Hotaka, alive, glowing, and looking way too calm for someone who just punched a demon. Even the vice principal blinked in disbelief, probably wondering if this was divine intervention or bad luck. Hotaka turned, glaring at the corrupted creature, the former vice principal. The realization hit like a gut punch. Suddenly, the beast snarled, its voice distorted and dripping with hatred. He lunged, but Hotaka dodged just in time. The monster's attack impaled the real vice principal instead, tentacles piercing through his body like a grotesque kebab. Blood splattered across the floor, and the air turned cold. The monster's laughter twisted into frustration. He'd killed the only other key to the treasure vault. Brilliant. Even monsters, it seemed, could suffer from poor anger management. Hotaka smirked, half horrified, half entertained. Great. One less problem, but also one more. The creature growled, cursing itself and the situation. It muttered that killing Hotaka wasn't part of the plan, and that dealing with him would be more trouble than it was worth. It began to retreat, forming a barrier with shimmering, cursed light. Hotaka fired an arrow, but it ricocheted harmlessly off the shield. The monster laughed, voice dripping with contempt. It bragged that when it was still human, it had worked in the equipment department, meaning it had a whole arsenal of defense tools built into its new monstrous body. Escaping, it said, was child's play. Hotaka rolled his eyes. Of course the final boss had lore-based plot armor. Still, he wasn't about to let a corrupted bureaucrat talk trash and walk away. Hotaka wasn't buying any of it. He kept punching that shield like he was trying to teach physics a lesson, relentless fists battering the barrier until the monster's smug laugh finally hit a crack. The shield shattered across the air with a sound like a snapped spine, and Hotaka's next punch planted square on the creature's skull, sending it flying like a busted drone into the rafters. He landed, chest heaving, eyes cold as a broken streetlight. "Leave the triad dungeon key and your corpse," he meant, "and don't think about walking out whole." From the floor, Tammy watched with her jaw near the floor. She'd never expected a student to wreck a rank 30 energy shield in 2 strikes. Only the principal, in legend, could do that. The monster heeled in a fury, wings erupting like torn banners, and it launched itself skyward with murderous speed. "You're lucky today," it bellowed. "I'll spare you." Then it laughed and tried to vanish into the clouds. Tammy's face went hard. That thing has the triad key, she thought. It can't be allowed to escape. Her legs coiled, rabbit skill markings sparking at her ankles as she prepared to sprint. Hotaka didn't let her go alone. A light tap on her shoulder, a quick plan, wait, cooperate. Hotaka moved first, and the system answered like a stingy god handing out tools. Hotaka spent 1,000 star spirits to copy Cassiopeia's leap. He dumped another 4,000 to jack jump height to 50 meters, another 4,000 to raise consecutive jumps to 4, and 2,000 to speed jumps by 20%. 11,000 star spirits burned in total, a reckless investment, and he felt every one of them. He didn't bother to argue with the math. He needed air, and the monster needed cutting down. The monster crowed about human limits, flapping higher like an arrogant festival balloon. 3 arrows sliced out of the sky, and the shield around the monster shredded in sparks. He gaped as a second arrow punched a hole through one wing. Feathers and ichor scattered like a failed parade. How in the world is this happening, he wondered, bewildered, because the attacker wasn't supposed to be that high. Here's the trick. Hotaka's leap was married to Tammy's rabbit launch. She gave the boost, he rode the momentum. A human rocket pack with a teacher awkwardly clutching a student mid-flight. Tammy's ears twitched, and her face burned crimson at the position, embarrassed as hell, but she shoved every ounce of her rabbit power into the launch. Physics filed a complaint and lost. Hotaka hit the monster's height with a grin. He loosed 3 arrows, the monster dodged some, but then his limbs stiffened. The wing wound left earlier was a slow poison, decay seeping through muscle and bone, and movement that had been fluid began to seize. The monster's sneer turned into a choke. Too late, it realized, and Hotaka was already behind it, raining a new volley that punched through chest and wing alike. The beast teetered, still arrogant, still cursing that if Hotaka had been lucky enough to hit the head earlier it might have been over. Hotaka laughed inwardly at the theatrics. He traded guaranteed heat-buffed power for the leap build. Yes, his hit damage dipped, but he could now stay airborne, chain strikes, and outlast the monster's escape. He double-jumped in the air, then triple-jumped, each thrust a hard, point-blank punctuation mark. The creature screamed that no brat should be able to pull so many mid-air jumps, and that cocky laugh curdled as its limbs froze. Poison stage 10, the paralysis creeping in. Hotaka rolled mid-air and hammered the monster's head, blows raining down until the hulking thing fell like a ruined statue. It tried to drag him into oblivion, promising to take Hotaka down with it. Noble last words for a defeated pride. But Hotaka kept moving, followed through with a deafening strike, and the monster crashed into the ground, the impact cracking stone. Hotaka didn't let gravity get the last laugh. He triggered his controlled fall with another leap chain, triple turn, breaking the descent so he landed, and the monster hit harder. The beast convulsed, skin flaking, and then the human shape bled back through, a broken man with a snapped leg, coughing and smiling at the farce of being bested. He spat a bitter line about the heretic court's inevitable plans, promised to meet Hotaka in a rancid hell, and dissolved into ash like a candle someone finally blew out. The system chimed in, Boss Yoga defeated, reward 5,000 star spirits. Loot, Triad dungeon controller, opens and shuts dungeon doors with a 30-minute cooldown, and lost Academy equipment vault key, the one that actually mattered for gear and explanations. Hotaka looked upward at the ceiling he'd just used as a punching bag for destiny. Through the school's general communication system, Tishalina's voice echoed across the ruined campus, broken but proud. She announced that, thanks to Hotaka's insane bravery, all traitor beasts had been eliminated, and Rixon Academy was officially safe. The underground shelters exploded in cheers. Students screamed, laughed, some even cried. The once hopeless academy now had a single name to chant, Hotaka, the same Hotaka they called a wannabe, a low-tier student, a bug in the system. Meanwhile, back in the gymnasium, Mina clenched her tiny fists, her eyes glimmering with tears and faith. She whispered inwardly that she always believed in her big brother. She knew he'd protect everyone. Hotaka, however, wasn't basking in the victory. His focus was sharp as ever. Staring at the strange metallic device he obtained after killing the boss, his expression darkened. The screen showed an updated countdown, 180 days until global collapse. He exhaled slowly. So that's it? Not over yet. Turning to Tishalina, he said coldly that the battle wasn't done. The third-year students were still in danger. The heretic court wasn't finished. He had to move. Tishalina's expression shifted in shock. She cursed under her breath, saying those heretic bastards planned to crush them entirely. But just as Hotaka turned to leave, she called out suddenly, her voice trembling between fear and duty. She told him about the secret treasure vault, the Academy's hidden arsenal. Weapons sealed away by Principal Rixon himself, relics from forgotten wars, power no student should touch. She hesitated, admitting she only knew half of the vault's password. Hotaka's lips curled into that half-mad grin again. He told her that, coincidentally, he possessed the other half, a data fragment obtained from slaying Boss Yoga. Tisha's eyes widened. The two halves aligned. Then, she let him in anyway. The next moment, the massive gate of the secret vault, Hotaka stepped inside slowly, eyes wide in awe. Rows upon rows of weapons, legendary blades, god-tier relics, all resting in stasis like sleeping dragons. Behind him, Tishalina watched nervously. She had lied. She didn't actually have full authority to lend anything out. But seeing Hotaka standing there, the same boy who risked everything to protect the academy, she clenched her fist and made a choice. Even if the principal never forgives me, for the students' safety, it's worth it. As soon as he arrived in the dungeon, a robot appeared, introducing itself as Light, the Academy Archive Guide AI, and welcomed Hotaka to the Stella Academy archives. But seeing that Hotaka's ID is not registered, it decided to play the automatic demo. In 2066, countless meteors rained down from the sky, and an incident called the First Genesis occurred. Not only meteorites but mysterious substances called star spirits also fell. The star spirits that covered Earth brought immense power to humanity and greatly changed Earth's path of development, leading the future of humanity and Earth to be filled with infinite hope. Now, the AI registered Hotaka's guest ID, and since he's using Library Director Lena's access token, he obtained the highest level access privileges. With a sinister grin, he welcomed Lena back to the world of truth and despair, telling Lena that the world would end in 5 years, 111 days, 15 hours, and 36 minutes. It's a truth that not everyone knows. But as for Hotaka, he already knew that the world is about to end. But the countdown is different from the one he's seeing from the sky. He thought the countdown should be something humanity decided for itself. Though having crisis awareness is good, it's completely different from what he was seeing. The AI then spoke again, telling Lena that her power is needed for humanity's future. So did she work for humanity's future today? Every action becomes a heroic deed that extends the countdown and will bring her wealth and honor. For details, she could contact the End Countdown Bureau. Hotaka, who was using Lena's identity, realized that he might get rewards for his actions. He deemed it interesting, including the End Countdown Bureau, so he decided to look into it after overcoming the crisis. Now he's sitting on top of a pile of corpses in the trial dungeon while looking at his system screen. He was given missions in the trial dungeon. The first mission was to defeat 20 monster bears, 20 tree demons, and 1 elite bear king in order to enter the Tower of Trials. The second mission was to clear 30 floors of the Tower of Trials to enter the final boss battle. The third mission is to defeat the boss and clear the trial to exit the dungeon. As for now, the dungeon mode is no respawn. Hotaka wondered why the trial dungeon had no respawn mode, or if the rules changed behind the scenes. Maybe it's the trump card Yuga mentioned. Plus, there should be many dead students, but there's not a single corpse, so he wondered what's going on. Maps don't work either. He had no choice but to uncover the truth on his own. He scrolled through the mission again. The first mission just needed the elite bear king, so he decided to gather more information before it appeared. He then searched the keyword crisis. Results came out, and he was able to gain some information. The first was the individual crisis. Although star spirits strengthen humanity, they must be constantly adapted to and controlled. The positive effects of the individual crisis are that with proper control, various talents and star ranks are granted, greatly enhancing all stats. As for the negative effects, without proper control, star spirits inside the body go berserk and cause mutation, and sanity is just one means of controlling star spirits within the body. Now the second one is the species crisis. After the star spirits' descent, star spirits changed Earth's ecosystem and brought evolution, changing plants, animals, and elements to develop self-awareness and gain group consciousness and aggression. As a result of that, all species simultaneously reached the starting line, and humanity found itself at an overwhelming disadvantage in the survival war. The third is the territory crisis. After initial defeats, humanity was no longer Earth's absolute ruler. Ultimately, all resources had to be consolidated to build various city zones as survival bases and defensive fortresses. City zone size is determined by the size of stars within the solar system. The world's largest city zone is City Zone 0, Sun. As for Stella Academy, it belongs to City Zone 5, which is Earth. And as for the fourth, it's the core fatal crisis. Humanity's most fatal crisis came not from outside but from within. After the First Great War, humanity fell into anarchy, and all city zones came to be administered by coalition autonomous organizations funded by major corporations. As a result, various major corporations began fighting behind the scenes, and many evil organizations were born. And so, humanity's division and lack of unity is the true cause of the approaching end crisis. After reading all that, Hotaka realized that the worldview is mostly the same as his proposal. Only the detailed settings are different, so he decided to take his time and understand them properly. If the basic settings haven't changed, then information is his weapon. He needs to use talents and information to get more star spirits and become stronger. But then suddenly from behind, the elite Bear King, level 30, star rank 69 Zeta Ursa, attacked him from behind, but he blocked the attack with just his hand nonchalantly since he was already expecting its appearance. He then adjusted his leg, and with force he slammed the bear with his elbow, sending it flying and coughing out blood. Though the bear didn't fall much, it regained its balance and composure. It then activated its unique skill on its hand and went charging at Hotaka again. Hotaka also charged forward at it with unwavering determination. The two clashed, the impact intense, but the bear was no match for Hotaka's aggressive strength. Hotaka grabbed its hand, swung the bear around, leaped up, and forcefully slammed the bear on the ground, causing it to cough out blood. But Hotaka didn't stop there. He charged towards it with the determination to kill, sending chills down the bear's spine. And under the red moonlight glow, Hotaka punched the bear, not just once, but multiple times. He then got a message that he has defeated the elite Bear King. He has cleared the first mission, so he was rewarded 100 points and his level increased to 22. Hotaka deemed the academy to be quite stingy for giving only 100 points. He realized that strength and combat talents have perfect compatibility. In close combat, he can even beat higher-ranked opponents. Also, adding leap and archery, he can fight well enough in future battles. But then, he heard a voice from behind. Someone told him he's amazing for defeating an elite bear king alone. Hotaka was shocked. He never noticed the person's presence until they spoke, so he immediately went for a punch, but then the guy panikedly told him to wait. He's Tsunaya Akira from Class 3. Hearing his name, Hotaka stopped his punch, which would have definitely obliterated the guy if it had landed. Hotaka asked if he's the rich kid from Class 3. He thought there was no one in the forest, so why is he here? But then he asked again, what about the others? What happened in the trial dungeon? The guy, with a saddened tone, told Hotaka he's the only one left. The others are probably all dead. Hotaka, agitated, asked the guy what he meant by everyone is dead. Is he lying? What exactly happened? He should talk quickly. The guy, shaking in fear, told Hotaka he doesn't want to remember what happened. He finally managed to pull himself together, but said he doesn't want to remember such a horrible scene again, so he should please let him forget it quickly. The guy threw up in disgust, saying everyone has died. Hotaka couldn't question further because, at the rate things are going, the guy's sanity would collapse, and he's the only clue he has. In that case, he gave the guy an epic recovery potion, which completely recovers all stats and temporarily boosts designated stats. Its duration is 5 minutes. He told the guy to drink it, but the guy refused, so he forced it into his mouth, telling him to drink it. If he dies, what would happen to his father's billions of assets? As soon as the guy tasted the potion, he took it from Hotaka's hand and drank it himself, saying he could feel the power surging through him and his brain feels clear. He has never felt such a way before. Hotaka was speechless. The potion costs 1,200 points per bottle, so of course it would work wonders. The guy voiced his ignorance, saying he thought he had seen all kinds of things, but he had no idea such potions existed, and Hotaka gave him such an item that money can't even buy. Immediately he went on his knees crying. He called Hotaka Big Bro, saying he has no idea he was such a good guy for giving him such a thing when it's their first time interacting. Still crying, he continued, all my friends were only after my money, and when push came to shove they abandoned me and ran. Without this high-grade stealth suit, I would have died ages ago. And so, he told Hotaka that for doing such a thing for him, from today onwards they're brothers who will trust each other. Although Hotaka didn't help him to gain his favor, he stretched his hand and told the guy it isn't a bad idea to have a rich brother. The guy laughed and told Hotaka that he cannot do anything, but he has got money so he should tell him anything he needs. As Hotaka shook his hand, the system informed him that a new talent has been detected. Level 16 talent, Bonbon Star rank, Alpha Pavo, but he cannot copy it due to special talent. Hotaka was speechless. His plan to copy his talent didn't work. He then asked the guy what happened in the dungeon. At least not everyone should have died. The guy told Hotaka that he remembers now, thanks to the potion. Though it's true that he didn't see everyone die, it was a crisis where total annihilation wouldn't have been strange. He recalled that right after entering the dungeon, they received the mission. It was no respawn mode, but they thought it was the Academy's mistake, so nobody thought deeply about it, and each party entered the forest and started hunting. But the beasts were 5 times stronger than usual. They had incredible power that killed people with one strike. Moreover, the no respawn thing was real, so the moment everyone realized that, they lost all will to fight and fled in panic. Except for one person, Yukirin. She told the students that it's useless, even if they run, they're trapped in the dungeon, so they can't get out without clearing the mission. Rather than keep running here and starve to death, she decided to risk her life and fight. Just like that. In the end, Yukirin led everyone into battle, and they managed to clear the first mission with nearly 100 casualties. But nobody felt relieved. Instead, they were plunged into even deeper despair. 280 students entered, only 185 remaining. Yukirin didn't stop there. She took her sword and continued moving forward. One of her friends then told her to stop. The monsters were not coming out. They cleared the first mission, and there were no more beasts, so they should wait here for the teachers. Yukirin turned back and said to her, "Don't tell me you think the errors in the dungeon are coincidental. Probably it's not just the dungeon, the outside is definitely facing the same kind of crisis, so no help is coming." The girl asked in a shaky tone what they should do then. Yukirin, speechless, said to herself that she would definitely save him, so she should wait for him. But then, to their surprise, something was thrown toward them. and from it came purple smoke, which immediately took out most of the students since the smoke contained poison. Yukirin staggered. She's currently poisoned and paralyzed. A voice then came from in front of her, telling her that not only does she have high talent and star rank, but her judgment is extremely excellent. Yukiran immediately went in to attack him, since he's the source of the anomaly, but the guy blocked the strike, telling her that it's impressive she's still able to move even when she's poisoned. She's truly a once-in-a-century material. But it's unfortunate that what awaits her isn't a bright future, but a pitch-black hell. Akira explained to Hotaka that they took everyone to the Black Tower, both living and dead students. Though he managed to survive thanks to his equipment, he could only watch and couldn't do anything. Nothing at all. Hotaka finally realized that the mysterious organization was the trump card of the mutants outside. They were hiding in the dungeon and waiting from the beginning. With all that has happened so far, he deduced that the heretic cult preparing so thoroughly isn't just to capture students. There's definitely some much bigger purpose hidden in that Black Tower. He then told Akira to hide and survive. He's going to save the students. Akira told him to wait. He's coming with him. He wants to help even a little. Hotaka refused, telling him it's not possible, it's dangerous. He should not act impulsively from the potion's effects. He needs to inherit billions in assets. The guy told Hotaka that the potion's effects have already worn off, and he's calm. Though he knows he's scared, he's sick of living like trash. Until now, he thought money could do anything. He thought he could buy safety with money. But he came to realize that in hell, money is just worthless paper, and equipment bought with money only extends your life a little. What's needed is power. Immense power is the means to survive. With power, he can face any crisis just like him. That's why he wants to follow him and become strong. He won't be a burden, he may be weak, but the equipment he bought with money will definitely be useful. Hotaka was speechless. He wondered if a real soul possessed the incompetent rich kid NPC. Though in this reconstructed world, there are no NPCs or mob characters. Everyone is the protagonist of their own life. He then agreed to let Akira come with him, wanting to see if his resolve is real. Hotaka told him the path ahead will be even more dangerous. Akira wasn't worried because, if Hotaka handles the main firepower, he's not afraid of anything, so he told Hotaka to leave the support work to him. Minutes later, they arrived at the tower, but they noticed something strange. The tower door refused to open even though they'd cleared the first stage of the mission. Hotaka told him that it's not surprising. If the cult can even change the dungeon modes, they should be able to do so much. He thought to himself, is there really a need to be this cautious? They have an overwhelmingly advantageous situation. Akira then brought out his bazooka. He told Hotaka to stay back. It's his turn to work since brute force is his specialty, so he will blow it to smithereens. The weapon is a Big Shark custom phase annihilation cannon, version 2.3. It requires the bloodline authentication of Akira to be able to work. It was developed by his family's industry, a 7th-generation concept weapon mainly for protecting the air's safety. He then shot out the sharks. The impact was intense. Though it was able to damage it, they were surprised to see that the tower could self-repair. Akira refused to accept defeat, so he decided to keep shooting until the restoration couldn't keep up, since he had plenty more ammo. But then, Hotaka told him to wait. Doing that will just make the enemy more cautious. Physical attacks can't destroy the tower. So he told Akira to wait right there. He would be right back. He went on one knee, energy swirling around him. Then he jumped upward at full speed, moving to the top of the tower with the aid of the tower's edges. He arrived at the top. He could see that the outer wall is completely sealed, and even if destroyed, it revives immediately, which is troublesome. Suddenly, Akira arrived at Hotaka's location, which shocked Hotaka. He told Hotaka that he never expected he'd reach 150 meters with just a jump, and that he was moving so fast that his equipment couldn't keep up. Indeed, his potential is limitless, Hotaka boasted, telling Akira not to be surprised. Tsunaya Industries has tons of good equipment. But then he paused. He told Akira that things aren't looking good. Weak star spirits disappeared from the upper part of the tower, which means someone died. Hotaka asked if he can tell what's happening inside the tower. Akira told Hotaka kind of. The goggles were a birthday present from his mom. They're made from rare star spirit crystal material, and can detect star spirit concentration. He said to himself that he can see those overflowing, burning, high-concentration star spirits from Hotaka. He had never seen anything like that before. Is Hotaka really human? He wondered. Hotaka decided to stop dawdling. He needs to do something quickly, but he still sees no way of bypassing it. A thought then came to his mind, so he immediately went to try it out. He swiftly went back to the door entrance and clicked something, which brought out a password input device. In Hotaka's planning stage, for dungeons and missions that require opening doors, he had set up hidden routes as backdoors. He thought about the password. In his proposal, he set them all to Yukiran's birthday, but he had no idea if it would work. He tried multiple passwords until one finally worked and the door opened. They both ran in at full speed. Akira told him he thought it wouldn't work, but it was surprisingly easy. Hotaka insisted that it's too early to celebrate. The real trial starts in the tower. Hotaka's main mission was to rescue Yukiran. Yukiran and Hotaka aren't just regular friends. They've known each other ever since they were little. At that time, Yukiran was age 7. Her father and mother had told her not to go to the outer castle, but since she saw the chance, she came out secretly. She was excited, saying to herself that though the buildings are old-fashioned, they have a nice lived-in feeling. She then saw someone on a car, about her age. That someone was Hotaka. He was 8 at that time, a slum kid, street smart. She saw how focused he was, so she wondered what exactly he was doing. After he finished what he was doing, he stood up and targeted a can, then he shot it. The force from the shot pierced through the can. She deemed it amazing that he was able to hit from such a distance. Though she was watching him from a corner, wondering if she should talk to him, she didn't know if it would bother him. But then, from behind her, a low-level monster came to attack her. Frightened, she slipped as her leg hit a stone while trying to pull back. As soon as she fell, the monster charged at her to taste her meat. But to her surprise, Hotaka shot at the monster, a direct headshot, causing the monster to cough blood and die. Immediately he jumped forward. He was happy he finally succeeded after practicing hard, so today they were going to eat meat. He saw the girl's sparkling clothes and asked for her identity and what she was doing there. She stuttered, then began crying, saying, "I just came out of curiosity. I didn't do anything bad. I'm sorry." Hotaka was too soft for such emotions, so he told her not to cry over something like this. This isn't a place for rich lords like her to come. But well, he didn't hate her since she was polite and different from other arrogant rich people. He walked towards a tree, jumped up, and plucked a fruit. He stretched out his hand to her, telling her to stand up and stop crying. He knew her skirt got dirty. It was such a pretty skirt, so he'd clean it for her since it'd be a waste to leave it dirty. She grabbed his hand and thanked him. And so, Hotaka asked her who she was and where she was from. She replied, "Higure family from the upper castle." Hotaka questioned the word upper castle, saying he had never heard of them. She was surprised that he didn't know about her family since she thought her family was pretty famous. He then told her it's dangerous for a young girl like her to be in the slums, but she's lucky she met him. Nobody will mess with her when she's with him. Another trouble arose. The skirt wasn't getting cleaned at all. He didn't even know how to do laundry since his mom always did it for him. She told him not to worry, pulled off the stained skirt, saying she came to the slums because she wanted to, so a dirty skirt is nothing. Hotaka immediately told her with a smile, "That's great, you're so cool." He then grabbed her hand and told her he'd take her somewhere nice. And so, they both exchanged names. Of course, their encounter didn't just end there. They met many times and created memories together. And all these memories came like a dream to Yukiran. She woke up and immediately reached for her sword as she came to her senses, but her weapons had been taken away. She looked around, wondering if the place she was in could probably be inside the Black Tower. She wondered what the hell they were planning, bringing students to such a place. She tried using her family's emergency communication device that wasn't confiscated, but there was no signal. It seemed like the side of the tower was completely cut off from the outside world. The girl beside her then started shouting, saying she didn't want to die in such a place. She had family too. A male student from behind started pointing fingers, saying they're definitely after Yukiran. They have no use for low-ranked trash like them, they just got caught up in the mess. Otherwise, there's no way they'd have captured worthless people like us, so it must be her fault. But then the cult man approached him, told him, "That's right. Their target is Yukirin. The guy in fear asked if they would be released, but his head was chopped off before he knew it. This scene put the other students in shock. They knew they were fucked up. The man then told the corpse that he's half correct. He's also useful enough as corpses. He then asked his underling if the dead body should be enough for the required number to begin the ritual. The guy replied, "Yes, sir." The dead bodies were all placed together at the center of something. One of the cult members opened a box. From it came out a figure with tentacles. The figure then started chanting a spell and knelt on a magic circle. Then, suddenly, those dead bodies were being absorbed into something. The students in fear asked what is going on. This is definitely some bad ritual. What are they planning to do? The boss told them confidently that it's made by compressing blood, flesh, and star spirits. It serves as both material and nutrients. He then said to them, "Welcome to the real world, those of you who came from the ivory tower." Immediately, the students started running frantically. Their sanity level dropped, but the guards stopped them using the shock grenade, which releases shock waves around the area, stunning enemies and forcibly stabilizing sanity. But it was too late. Too many people already mutated. The killing became more fierce. The guards had a difficult time since they alone aren't enough to take down all the mutated students, so they asked the boss to call for backup. The boss brought out his weapon from behind, saying he knew this would happen. That's why he told them not to do the ritual in front of the students, but it's the employer's order so they can't disobey. He hated the sound of kids crying in chaos, but it can't be helped, he commented. Since they're getting paid, they have to do it. They're professionals after all. He then began chopping off the heads of the mutated students at an incredible speed. On the other side, Yukirin's friend was shivering in fear, not wanting to die, blaming herself for being powerless. But Yukirin was composed. She decided this chaos is convenient for her, but to fight back she first need to get her weapons back. Getting over to where it is in such chaos won't be easy. She decided to manipulate her sword to pull it over. Though the distance isn't a problem, it'll take time to break through the energy shield surrounding it, so she hoped they don't notice until then. As she manipulates her sword, she was hitting the shield to break it from inside, but she was already getting exhausted faster than she thought, though she refused to give up. Then a guard appeared, pointed a gun at her and asked what she is doing. Surprisingly, her friend hit the guard with her body, which caused the guard's bullet to miss. The guard then pointed his gun at her, saying she has got more guts than he thought. He'll kill her first. But before he could shoot, both his hands were chopped off, and then his head, chopped off clean and swiftly. The girl was happy. She was of a little help even though she's weak. Yukirin thanked her for buying her time, but the friend told her it's not over yet. She then told the other students that crying won't change the situation. If they don't want to die, they should take their weapons and fight back. She charged out to attack, not wanting to die in such a place since Hotaka is waiting for her. Yukirin ran like someone owed her the horizon, blades of air parting and the battlefield folding neatly into a runway for her dramatic entrance. 2 soldiers noticed her, the kind of notice that never ends well. They raised their rifles with the confident stupidity of background extras and began firing for dramatic effect. Yukirin's expression said it all, irritated, unimpressed, and maybe 2 seconds away from inventing a new level of violence. Bullets reached her and immediately regretted existing. Each one sliced apart mid-air, shredded into a glittering storm of metallic confetti. The soldiers froze, their brains catching up to the idea that they had just been outperformed by physics itself. Around them, the others kept firing, because panic apparently doesn't come with intelligence. A flash of memory cut through the chaos. This wasn't new, this was training. Since she was 8, Yukirin had treated cutting bullets as an after-school hobby. Her maid had been her unwilling assistant, nervously shooting a toy gun, while Yukirin yelled that it wasn't a game. The maid's heart probably aged 20 years that week alone. At 13, they upgraded to real bullets. The maid begged her to wear a vest. Yukirin refused, claiming armor made her sword feel sluggish. At 17, the maid introduced a machine gun into the routine and started praying mid-session. She warned about losing her job, and maybe her head, if anything happened. Yukirin told her to shoot harder. The maid probably still has nightmares about that day. Now back in the present, Yukirin reached the soldiers and turned them into a masterclass in decapitation. The students who had been sobbing seconds ago suddenly stared like they'd just discovered a cheat code. The pink-haired girl, the one who once wasted money trying to buy time for Yukiran, wiped her tears and ran toward the chaos, declaring internally that she was too young and too fabulous to die. Inspired by her questionable courage, the others rallied too. They grabbed their weapons, yelling about taking their chances with Yukiran instead of fate. Because when you're doomed anyway, following the scary sword girl suddenly makes perfect sense. Amid the chaos, Yukiran's brain didn't rest. Why had the enemies targeted her the moment the dungeon warped? Ranks weren't visible, no one should have known. That left one answer: a traitor. Someone within their own ranks had served her name on a platter. Her thoughts shattered as two metallic weapons shot toward her. She dodged, but one grazed her arm. The pain was brief, the insult was not. The enemy leader appeared, tall, armored, and visibly allergic to compassion. He told her to die quickly so he could go home, complaining like a man missing his evening coffee. Yukiran offered to pay him double if he betrayed his employer instead. He laughed, not the funny kind, but the kind that ends in regret. He mentioned the Higure family name and sneered about what he really wanted, something money couldn't buy. Then he lunged. Their clash was loud enough to wake ghosts. Yukiran blocked, sparks flying like angry fireflies. The ground cracked under the weight of every blow. He was stronger, but she was stubborn, and stubborn people are nature's error message. Each strike came heavier, faster. He muttered about fun and unpredictability. She thought about stabbing him in a less survivable place. Then his comms beeped, the sound of an overworked mercenary realizing he'd missed his clock-out time. He sighed, said it was quitting time, and decided to end things dramatically. Out came claws, wings, and a sand wave that swept the entire area like divine janitorial fury. Students screamed, the ground trembled. Yukiran's ears rang until sound became pain itself. Her brain felt like it was trying to exit through her skull. Still, she crawled, reaching for her sword, the one thing she trusted, but the leader reached it first. He snapped the blade like it was a cheap toy, the sound cutting through her chest sharper than any weapon could. He twisted the broken shard into her arm, and blood followed, cruel and hot. Her cry came out low and rough. The leader knelt beside her, admiring his own cruelty. "A will too strong," he said, "destroys itself." He looked proud, like a poet reciting his worst verse. And then came William. He strolled in, too clean for a battlefield, dressed in arrogance and expensive betrayal. Level 15, 41 better star rank, and about as likable as rusted nails. He told Yukiran she'd had her chance once, and chose wrong. The realization hit, he was the traitor. The anger that burned in her chest was no longer fear, it was volcanic disgust. William, meanwhile, basked in his own villain monologue. He struck her insignia from her chest, throwing it to the dirt like a prize he didn't deserve. Not content with betrayal, he added humiliation. Verbal, cutting, self-indulgent. He wanted her broken, not just beaten. The leader, apparently fine with corporate sadism as long as it didn't interrupt his schedule, gave William a minute to enjoy himself. It was the kind of moral bankruptcy that didn't even pretend to have a bottom. And then the sky disagreed. Metallic devices descended from above like divine bugs, humming, locking onto targets, and lighting up the field with searing energy. A blinding flash swept everything into silence. When Yukiran's vision returned, her torn battle gear was gone, replaced by a nanotech suit that pulsed with sleek energy, smooth and alien. Confusion flickered in her eyes, but so did fury. Because standing before her was Hotaka. He arrived late, looking like vengeance wrapped in exhaustion. Apologizing like a hero who missed the first half of the movie. He swore to destroy anyone who had touched his family. Yukiran managed the smallest smile, the kind people make when they've already decided someone else is doomed. The leader blinked, confused. Hotaka wasn't supposed to be here. The entrance was sealed, the guards were outside, and now all of them were suspiciously quiet. William, ever the talker, laughed. He recognized Hotaka, called him trash, and promised to make him a stepping stone. Classic overconfidence. He raised his sword to strike. Hotaka moved before the air had time to react. His body twisted like reflex given form. Dodge, grab, twist. William's arm snapped in his grip, bone cracking loud enough for everyone to hear. The man who had mocked pain now screamed like it was his first language. "What is this power?" he demanded, a question that sounded like a confession. He flailed for Hotaka and spat curses. But Hotaka didn't bother with charm. He grabbed William, slammed him into the ground, and the earth answered with a crack like a snapped promise. A deafening blow rippled outward, nearby rubble offered its condolences. Hotaka didn't slow. He stretched, fists becoming metronomes of brutality, and began to hammer William's face with a relentless high-speed barrage. Each strike was a punctuation mark. Stop, stop, stop. William tried to buy time with his epic energy shield, the kind of artifact that usually moonlights as a missile stop. For a blessed second it held. Hotaka's fists, however, were not convinced by artifacts. The shield trembled, then spiderwebbed, then imploded like an overhyped gadget. William watched in horror as the thing he'd trusted to shrug off rockets shattered into useless light. Impossible, he howled. Then another punch landed. The impact drove the breath from him and painted the air crimson. Around them, students stilled, murmurs snapped into shouts. Is that really Hotaka? When did he inflate his power overnight? Nobody asked for this level of one-sided justice, but it was arriving anyway. Watching William get pulverized felt like delayed karma finally showing up with receipts. Yukirin, half bleeding and half breathing, still had the audacity to keep her eyes open. She wasn't sure whether to cheer or just pass out from secondhand stress. Then Toji arrived, walking into the chaos like some uninvited DLC character. The man moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd already read the spoilers. He dropped a sword beside Yukirin, not just any blade, but a generational guilt trip forged by the Higure bloodline. Ice crystals and mithril fused into a weapon that practically whispered, "I'm colder than your ex's goodbye text." Toji didn't waste time with hero speeches. He handed over a glowing device with the calmness of a man distributing holy relics. Big Brother Hotaka, he said, was out there being a human fireworks display to buy them time. The device would protect the students and give Yukirin cover to evacuate. Yukirin nodded anyway. Orders accepted, brain optional. The device went off, releasing a cloud so thick it made reality buffer. Not your average cinematic smoke, this stuff rewrote visibility itself. Enemy radios exploded with confusion as soldiers started arguing over thermography settings like tech support on fire. They switched scopes, cursed in 3 languages, and realized too late that their fancy gear couldn't read magic-grade trolling. From the fog, a gunshot cracked. One soldier dropped. Another turned, shouting something heroic before joining him on the floor. Somewhere in the mist, Toji smirked, the kind of smirk that deserved background music. "Don't compare our gear to toy grenades," his expression said. The enemy scrambled, sealing exits and barking orders like cogs trying to hold a collapsing machine together. That was when Yukirin moved through the smoke, a phantom with purpose. She cut 2 soldiers down, whisper quick, and signaled a path. "Follow me," her body said. "I will clear a lane and come back for Hotaka." Yukirin's inner promise to return hung in the air like a vow forged in blood. Back in the center of ruin, Hotaka's hands dripped not his blood but William's. The guy had given him more than a reason to fight. He'd given him motive. William scraped and pleaded, voice thin and furious. It was a threat. He was a victim too. "Forgive him, please." Hotaka's eyes flared crimson like an eclipse. "How many innocents died because of you?" he asked in a tone that did not invite excuses. Forgiveness felt improbably cheap at that moment. Before Hotaka could deliver a verdict, the leader slipped in behind him like a shadow with a clipboard. He accused Hotaka of stalling, of letting mercy become delay, and the leader touched down and performed battlefield triage with a smile, divine healing, a quick shove of life back into his paid asset. Ungrateful as William was, he gulped the repair and spat a thankless demand that the leader keep him alive. He'd pay more, he promised as he limped away. Hotaka's fury was steady, not theatrical. Allies pinged in his earpiece, all students evac'd outside the Black Tower. Now you can go all out. The words landed and unlocked something clinical in him. He launched 3 arrows toward William, swift justice expressed in projectile form, but the leader, forever the prudent protector of his invoice, intercepted. Then, one arrow betrayed expectation. Mid-flight, it bent, a small miracle of trajectory, and struck William square in the forehead. The sound was both wet and final. He hit the ground like a prize that had finally been collected. The system, indifferent, mechanical, registered the kill. William defeated, 100 points awarded, encrypted comms item looted, awaiting analysis. The world continued its bureaucratic duties even as bodies cooled. The leader, now standing over the fallen William, kicked the corpse as if checking a purchase return. An accountant in armor, he frowned at Hotaka's audacity. Killing William without authorization was a risk, but the leader's politics were easy to read. Profit first, sentiment never. Then, with a click that shifted tone, the leader produced 2 guns and went serious. He promised he'd repair the work to his satisfaction. Hotaka answered with arrows. The leader met them with bullets. Iron and wood tangoed, clashing into a visual stutter of sparks and death. The battlefield smelled like ozone and bad decisions. Around them, the students moved like survivors waking from a storm. Yukiran had cleared the path. They fled with the kind of messy, hopeful haste that history rewards or records poorly. Hotaka stayed. The leader cursed the inconvenience of a man who refused to be filed into a contract. The air screamed with bullets. Every direction flashed in metallic fury as the leader, a walking armory who clearly skipped leg day, grinned through the haze. He admitted that he might have underestimated Hotaka. The kid could actually keep up, dodging rounds that should have turned him into abstract art. Respect earned, apparently. So, in the most irresponsible show of gratitude ever, the leader decided to escalate. His arms unfolded like some twisted factory nightmare, and cannons, actual cannons, sprouted from both sides. Twin machine guns fused to flesh, humming with malice. He said he'd work overtime for a fighter this fun, and for once, someone sounded genuinely excited about murdering a teenager. Then came the barrage. 10,000 rounds per minute. Each bullet a sermon about overcompensation. Buildings behind Hotaka were reduced to polite dust clouds. The kid dashed between streams of molten air, speed blurring his form until physics started to complain. He moved with desperation disguised as grace, muttering inwardly that victory wasn't just about rank. It was about who had the better toys. Hotaka admitted his own inventory was modest, but he wasn't exactly unarmed. He'd raided the Academy's secret treasure vault like a thief with divine timing, and now it was payday. The leader paused when Hotaka stopped moving. He tilted his head, amused, asking if the brat had finally run out of stamina. 10,000 rounds a minute was apparently his idea of a fair fight. He shouted that it was time to clock out, that he'd bury Hotaka without even leaving a speck of dust. Classic villain confidence, loud, expensive, and seconds away from regrettable. The cannons roared again. Dust exploded across the field, choking visibility. And for a heartbeat, it looked like Hotaka had been swallowed whole. But as the smoke cleared, the bullets hung mid-air, frozen against a glowing shield that shimmered like divine mockery. A kinetic energy reflection barrier. Sigma type. It didn't just stop bullets, it studied their trajectory, calculated revenge, and sent them home 3 seconds later, with interest. The reflected barrage screamed back toward the leader like karma with bullets. His face collapsed into disbelief as he scrambled to block it with his twin cannons. Futile. The reflected rounds tore through his metal arms, turning them into Swiss cheese before exploding in streaks of light. He sighed, tossed the scrap aside, and looked almost impressed. Then, predictably, came the trash talk. So, Hotaka had an item like that. Did he get it from some rich woman? The leader sneered that Hotaka must be her pretty little gigolo, a parasite living off star ranks and sugar mommy allowances. Hotaka, bleeding and calm, didn't even deny it. He just smirked inwardly. Fine, a gigolo then. But one with a star rank of 15, a link value of 100, and a punch that breaks worlds. The leader froze. A 15-star with a link value of 102? Impossible, he stammered. But physics disagreed. Hotaka's fist connected with the man's jaw, sending his disbelief flying first class. Whether it was impossible or not, Hotaka told him to test it with his body, and then did the testing for him. The shield shattered, blood sprayed, the leader's armor cracked like old pride. Hotaka didn't stop. He broke through the man's defense, turned his punches into blunt prophecy, and smashed him across the battlefield. The leader tried to recover mid-air, but Hotaka was already there, waiting with another strike. The man hit the ground like he owed gravity money. When he rose, trembling and bloody, he screamed that it couldn't be happening. A veteran like him, undone by some academy brat? Desperation bloomed ugly. He unleashed an ultrasonic blast, a full-power move designed to shred nerves and bones. It rattled the whole arena, but Hotaka didn't flinch. He picked up Yukirin's broken sword from the wreckage and walked toward the man like patience given human form. Wrong enemy, he thought. Time for payback. The leader's laugh broke halfway between pride and madness. He admitted defeat, saying he'd been ready to die for years anyway. But he warned that killing him wouldn't end anything. The William Group and his employers would come next. Hotaka didn't bother responding. One clean swing silenced everything. The decapitation was swift, efficient, and just the right amount of cathartic. The system chimed in like an emotionless accountant. Mission complete. Mercenary captain defeated. 500 points acquired. Rewards flowed. Encrypted data for later analysis. An ultra-high-speed Gatling gun capable of firing 10,000 rounds per minute, powered by points instead of bullets, because apparently violence now had a subscription fee. And lastly, the ultrasonic light wings, a shimmering relic that paralyzed enemies with vibrating low-frequency waves. Not enough to fly, but enough to make anything within range regret its proximity. Hotaka barely had time to admire his loot before the ground began to convulse. The air warped. Somewhere in the shadows, a priest with tentacles, because of course there had to be one, lifted his arms and started chanting about flesh and blood offerings. His eyes turned crimson, veins bulging like overworked cables. The phrase "descent of the heretic god" echoed across the ruins, and suddenly, the sky ripped open. The system wailed an emergency alert. Warning, catastrophic entity approaching. Hotaka's heart lurched. He looked up, and there it was. The heretic god. A towering monstrosity stitched together from nightmares, its grotesque body pulsing with countless eyes, limbs, and whispers. The kind of creature that made existential dread feel underqualified. All across the battlefield, students froze. They stared at the horror breaking through the clouds. The final boss of the Triad dungeon, a being leagues above their comprehension. Some whispered that there was no hope. Others, shaking, said that as long as Hotaka still stood, they had a chance. Yukirin clenched her fist and raised her head, saying inwardly that she believed in him. Hotaka looked up at the godlike monstrosity as the sky bled light around it. The battlefield looked like the apocalypse got bored and decided to start early. And somewhere in the chaos, the heretic god was still trying to decide whether it wanted to destroy humanity or just redecorate the planet in horror aesthetics. Each boss wasn't just strong, they came with gimmicks so cruel it felt personal. Hotaka's mind ran wild, realizing he'd created these monsters for players who thought pain was a hobby, never expecting cultists would summon one into real life. The heretic cult wasn't just dangerous, they were the kind of people who'd throw a party in a graveyard and call it divine enlightenment. The heretic god, now half-formed and twice as ugly, writhed with tentacles that looked allergic to symmetry. Hotaka studied it through the haze, noting how different it looked from his original settings. Maybe this was what creative regret looked like in 3D. Was it because the world had reconstructed itself, or because the beast wasn't fully complete yet? Hard to tell when the universe had stopped caring about logic. Down below, the shaman responsible for this nonsense lifted his arms to the heavens like a lunatic hyping up a concert. He called upon the heretic god to devour flesh, grow stronger, and save humanity, the kind of line only a delusional cultist could say without irony. The creature answered not with grace, but with a tentacle that wrapped around the shaman like an affectionate nightmare. The priest didn't even scream. He smiled. Because, of course, dying horribly was an honor now. But before the heretic god could turn him into dinner, a storm of arrows sliced through the air. They tore the shaman apart mid-chant, courtesy of Hotaka, who didn't have the patience to listen to another word of that ritual drama. The arrows struck cleanly, and Hotaka muttered inwardly that the monster wasn't at full power yet. He'd have to stop its growth before the thing evolved into something that required divine patch notes. He whipped out his newly acquired cannon, firing with the kind of intensity that made the earth regret existing. Explosions erupted around the heretic god's feeding heart. But even through the chaos, the dying shaman's voice carried one last sermon of stupidity, declaring resistance useless and inviting Hotaka to become lunch. Hotaka ignored him, switching fire modes and muttering that if the heretic god wanted nourishment, then fine. It was getting a diet of hot lead and righteous spite. The bullets shredded through the pulsating heart, tearing it apart until it twitched in pain. The damage was too high. The abomination struggled to heal. Desperate, the cultists called out for salvation, begging their god to consume them as snacks, and the god obliged. 2 grotesque wings burst from its form, shielding the heart like it was guarding its last shred of pride. Then, with casual malevolence, it devoured the believers in one gulp. The resulting surge of mana nearly split the air in half, shaking the entire world like an earthquake powered by arrogance. Light exploded. Power roared. The heretic god's half-born body twisted and reformed until its true identity burned through the chaos. And Tares, the devouring star, finally revealed at 50% completion. Hotaka's eyes narrowed. Half-formed or not, this thing could still rewrite reality out of boredom. He calculated quickly. This wasn't despair level yet, but it was one unfortunate sneeze away from becoming that. Then Antares moved. A single flick of its tail unleashed a tidal wave of flames that devoured everything, students, ruins, and hope alike. Screams echoed as the fire carved the ground into molten regret. Out of its body burst thousands of tentacles, each vomiting out monstrous scorpion-like beasts that swarmed like the universe's worst multitasking feature. The beasts lunged, ripping through what was left of humanity's dignity. The students ran, tripping over their courage and shouting about how they were just high schoolers, because, apparently, reminding the apocalypse of your age was the best survival plan. Igura wasn't having it. She barked for them to stand and fight, slicing 2 shadow beasts clean in half, only to watch them regenerate with smug defiance. Despair thickened, but Toji, of all people, decided it was his anime redemption arc moment. He swung like a man who'd only recently remembered he owned arms, yelling that even a coward like him hadn't given up. Then came the light. A blinding, divine, unnecessarily dramatic light that tore through the clouds and smashed into the earth. The impact echoed like divine sarcasm. From it stepped Hotaka, alive, glowing, and very late to his own miracle. He deployed an enormous barrier that wrapped around the survivors, shattering waves of enemies like they were made of tissue paper. Students gasped, half in awe, half in confusion, wondering if this meant they were saved. Hotaka's barrier held. The Orikakun formation, his ultimate defense spell, the kind of move that screamed plot armor and emergency cooldown at the same time. Toji cheered with admiration, already convinced they might actually live past this cutscene. Another student, probably the designated pessimist, mumbled that they were all still going to die anyway, barrier or not. Igura marched to Hotaka's side, demanding a plan before the protection broke. Hotaka's eyes flicked upward, tracing Antares' towering form. Theoretically, there was a slim chance, if he could just reach the monster in the sky. He was, after all, the one who coded this nightmare. He knew its weak points better than its personality. The problem? He couldn't jump that high, not even with triple enhancement boosts. Igura doubted it was even possible, but Toji, ever the idiot optimist, grinned like someone who'd just found a cheat code. He said there was still hope, and from nowhere he pulled out a massive device that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi museum. A blinding circle of light formed beneath them, and with a thunderous hum, a giant mechanoid descended from the heavens. Nova 7, the Stardom robot. Toji practically beamed with pride, explaining that it was a modified war relic dropped from Tsunaya Industries' S-rank dungeon project, the StarCorp Graveyard. Hotaka's jaw practically disconnected. That kind of weapon could tilt the odds. Then reality kicked in when Toji explained the fatal flaw. It didn't use fuel. It ate star spirits, 10,000 of them per minute. Even Igura flinched at that. 10,000 star spirits per minute was enough to bankrupt an empire. Toji shrugged and said he begged his dad for it anyway, because why not gamble with parental disappointment? He'd even saved enough for a 30-second joyride once, and though it almost launched him into orbit, it was apparently worth it. Hotaka looked from the mech to the trembling students, crying for their parents, their homes, their sanity. The sound of despair solidified something inside him. If this was his only chance to end the nightmare, then he'd burn every star spirit he owned to do it. Tsunaya, in a fit of noble idiocy, had apparently decided generosity was a combat skill. The guy actually transferred 5,000 of his star spirits, the kind of resource you guard tighter than your browser history. Hotaka stared at him like he just confessed to burning money for warmth. Tsunaya only shrugged, muttering apologies like a billionaire donating his last coin. 30 seconds of fuel for the robot, he said. But in this kind of war, 30 seconds was the difference between legend and lunch meat. Igura tried to offer her own spirit next, even though her tank was emptier than a motivational quote after a bad day. She barely got the words out before Hotaka tapped her shoulder. Half comfort, half please don't embarrass yourself. He told her she'd already spent everything becoming stronger, so she shouldn't waste guilt pretending she had more to give. Then he tossed Tsunaya a look that said, "Take your pity points back," except Tsunaya's stubbornness had already been shipped and delivered. Hotaka claimed he could run the robot for 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Tsunaya thought the man had lost it. But Hotaka wasn't bluffing. His star spirits were overflowing, perfectly synced with the machine like they'd been made for each other. When he entered the cockpit, the system lit up in a frenzy of lights and arrogance. Pilot link successful. 40,000 points consumed. Duration, 4 minutes. Detection, abnormal spiritual resonance. All combat protocols unlocked. Translation, Hotaka just broke the tutorial limit. The robot roared to life and ascended, metal wings slicing through the sky. Down below, the earth trembled like it owed him rent. He aimed straight for the writhing mass of Antares, that oversized nightmare pretending to be a god. But first, he had to handle the wriggling tentacles that were mass-producing monsters like a corrupted factory line. Without hesitation, the robot unleashed waves of slashes, severing the connections. The moment the link was cut, the monsters began to melt into steaming puddles of regret. Antares shrieked in fury and panic, apparently not used to being bullied on its own battlefield. Its tentacles reformed into jagged claws, and it hurled them toward Hotaka. The robot system blared alerts, activating the Hive missile array. Missiles launched like a furious swarm, turning the sky into fireworks. Explosions rippled across Antares' grotesque form, its body glowing under the assault. Hotaka couldn't help but grin. The firepower was ridiculous, definitely pay-to-win tier. Antares staggered, and for once, the self-proclaimed final boss looked like it wanted a refund. But the monster wasn't finished. It morphed again, spawning globs of living sludge that rained down from above. The robot fired its shoulder cannons in a desperate attempt to clear the air, but some of the corrosive muck still splattered onto the armor. The system's voice came again. Right shoulder corrosion at 20%, operation time reduced to 3 minutes. Hotaka sighed like a man paying taxes. So much for invincibility. He switched tactics, abandoning defense entirely. The robot charged, unleashing a blinding storm of attacks that made even Antares recoil. Yet despite the hits, the monster's hide refused to crack. Those massive claws, his close combat advantage, according to whatever cosmic joke designed it, were blocking everything. Then the system chimed again. Rush protocol ready. Starburner wings deployed. Light exploded from the robot's back, wings blazing with divine fury, and Hotaka launched forward like a comet that had a grudge. He struck Antares from every angle. Arms, torso, tail, each impact echoing like thunder, each movement pushing his limits. Below, the students watched with their mouths open, unsure if this was courage or stupidity running on borrowed time. Tsunaya yelled encouragement, calling him a legend in the making, while Igura looked pale enough to pass as a ghost. She could see it, the way Hotaka was burning everything, even his life force, to win. Meanwhile, Antares decided it had enough humiliation for one day. The creature's scorpion tail glowed, firing hundreds of energy beams like a rave on steroids. Hotaka dodged what he could, but some beams sliced through his wings. The system screamed, damage at 50%, rush protocol offline, switching to defense mode. A shimmering barrier formed around him, capable of absorbing 1 million damage for 15 seconds. Hotaka chuckled bitterly. 15 seconds of safety. What a generous insurance plan. He dove straight into close combat. The robot's timer was bleeding seconds. 1 minute left. Hotaka's focus sharpened to a single point. He forced the machine forward, tanking hits, slicing through Antares' monstrous tail. The tail split apart, shrieking as its source of power shattered. The monster's movement slowed, body trembling under the strain, now or never. The system roared its final message, last protocol activated. Orbiter weapon ready, charge complete. A massive cannon unfolded from the robot's chest, glowing crimson like the wrath of a dying sun. Antares froze. For all its godlike arrogance, It understood the end when it saw it. Star Judgment fired. The beam ripped through the air, vaporizing everything in its path. Antares, the battlefield, even the shadows trying to escape. The explosion carved silence into existence. When the light faded, there was nothing left but dust and disbelief. The system announced completion. Final boss defeated. 500 points awarded to all players. Exit gate activated. The students erupted in cheers, tears, and some desperate hugs. Tsunaya's voice broke with pride, Igura's eyes softened with relief, and for one brief moment, everyone believed in miracles. Then the robot beeped its final goodbye. Operation time ended. The cockpit ejected, tossing Hotaka into open sky as the mighty machine dissolved into its compact device. He caught it mid-air, his body still crackling with fading energy. The robot was drained of star spirits, completely empty. Still, he smiled through the exhaustion. The power had been worth every ounce of pain. He tried to steady himself for a safe landing, prepping his quadruple jump. But before he could act, a jolt of pain tore through him, sharp, unrelenting, alive. His vision blurred, body convulsing as something deep within rebelled. The system's voice echoed like a smug AI that enjoyed watching humans suffer, politely informing Hotaka that because he overloaded the mech far beyond his rank, a special debuff had been applied: pain and suffering. Apparently, this upgrade from hell meant all his skills, talents, and items were now useless for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, in the middle of a death drop. Hotaka's eyes widened as if the sky had just insulted his intelligence. He thought maybe they could have mentioned this earlier, before he turned himself into a flaming shooting star headed for the ground. Far below, Yukirin noticed something off. That something being Hotaka plummeting from the sky like gravity owed him money. She muttered inwardly that his fall speed wasn't decreasing at all. Tsunaya, ever the commentator, pointed out that Hotaka should be able to use his quadruple jump. Then it clicked. The same weakness he had back when he first used the mech wasn't him being weak, it was a side effect. Without waiting for backup, Tsunaya launched his jetpack device like a caffeine-fueled comet. He said something about saving Hotaka, but really, it was mostly panic and poor decision-making disguised as heroism. Meanwhile, Yukirin and the others felt the ground vibrate. The transfer gate, their one-way ticket out of this cosmic joke, was shrinking. Students pointed upward, screaming something about glowing shapes in the sky, because apparently, the nightmare wasn't done yet. A grotesque figure that looked suspiciously like a monster's heart was reforming above them. Fantastic. The sequel no one asked for. Then the system, with all the grace of a broken alarm clock, announced a mysterious error. Transfer gate closing in 100 seconds. The students froze, then erupted into chaos, panicking, tripping, and forgetting what teamwork even meant. Some collapsed from exhaustion, others screamed for help, but survival mode didn't include empathy. Yukuran, however, wasn't built to sit and cry about it. She made a decision only a true lunatic, or hero, would. If they couldn't all run, she'd send them flying instead. She told the slower ones to activate their strongest defensive skills, which sounded noble until she grabbed one student and yeeted her straight into the shrinking gate like a home-run baseball. The others stared in disbelief, then realization. Brutal, but effective. And so began the strangest evacuation method ever recorded. Yukirin swung her sword like a divine baseball bat, launching crying students into the transfer gate with perfect accuracy. Each swing echoed with righteous fury and mild war crime energy. They called it insane. She called it efficiency. Deep down, she just refused to let Hotaka's sacrifice go to waste. Up in the sky, Hotaka was still falling. The wind tore at him, pain shot through his body, and he thought about how tragic it'd be to die stylishly mid-air while everyone escaped. He begged silently for them to make it out, even if he didn't. But before the ground could make a new crater in his honor, Tsunaya streaked through the sky and caught him mid-fall like some overconfident action hero. Hotaka was shocked to still be alive. Tsunaya apologized for forgetting to mention the robot's side effects. Hotaka, ever the martyr, just laughed internally that it wouldn't have changed anything. If his life could save the others, so be it. Tsunaya wasn't having that melodrama, though. He tightened his grip, muttering something about not letting Hotaka die a cool death just to make everyone else look bad. He pressed a few buttons, and a massive power bike materialized beside them like it had been waiting for a cinematic entrance. The thing looked ridiculous, sleek, loud, and clearly overcompensating for something, with an engine that could reach 300 km/h. Since the flight device was toast, they had no choice but to ride it out. Literally. Tsunaya revved the bike, yelling something about maximum velocity, and the two blasted toward the collapsing gate. Then, Hotaka noticed Yukirin still on the battlefield, stubbornly swinging her sword even as the world fell apart. Tsunaya shouted back, asking why she was still there, but Hotaka told him to keep going. He reached out instead, stretching his arm as they raced past, and Yukirin grabbed hold. The moment their hands met mid-air, she swung herself onto the bike's back, landing with the grace of someone who had absolutely no time left for elegance. Hotaka smiled, half relieved, half exasperated. He asked why she always had to wait in dangerous places like she was auditioning for tragedy. Yukirin held him tight from behind, whispering through the chaos that she wasn't letting go again. Tsunaya, ever allergic to emotional moments, interrupted that touching reunion by yelling they were out of time. The system began its final countdown, 10 seconds. The gate's light flickered like the dying battery of the universe. Tsunaya's hands tightened on the handles, his voice a mix of panic and adrenaline as he told them to hold on tight. Then, with every ounce of speed the bike could muster, they surged forward into the collapsing gate. Their speed increased. They stood steadfast on the bike. Countdown. Now 9 seconds. The boss reacted. The ground trembled as the rock broke. A sinkhole appeared in front of the portal. The cult was determined not to let them out no matter what. Akira shouted at them to hold on. "He's jumping!" He boosted up, saying the bike was made with a fighter jet engine, but to their surprise he jumped too far from the gate, which was really bad. The bike lost its balance. Now the countdown is 5 seconds. Akira carried Hotaka on his back, running and blaming himself for not calculating the distance accurately. Hotaka told him not to blame himself. It was because he couldn't finish the boss off. Yukirin said to herself that she wished she could blast Hotaka and Akira away with force like she did with the other students, but she didn't have the strength. Now the countdown is 1 second, the transfer gate closing. They're almost at the gate, but they won't be able to make it. But then, to their surprise, a machine came through the gate and widened it. To their greater surprise, the person who came out of it was the principal, Sumeragi Hakuji, Stella Academy's principal. With a smile, he told the three of them that they all did really well. From here, they should leave it to the teachers. The principal then told the first squad to seal the core, the second squad should control it. They all began working in unison, but the boss core was still rampaging, causing the earthquake frequency to increase. They were surprised to see the core growing even more. The principal activated his spell, not wanting to make the same mistake twice. He then shot all his swords at the rampaging core. They pierced through the barrier and headed straight for the core. Akira praised the principal for being cool. The first time seeing him, Hotaka also respected him. After all was done, the principal came and placed his hand on Hotaka's shoulder, praising him for brilliantly covering his mistake. He thanked him from the bottom of his heart. The system then told Hotaka that a copyable talent had been detected from the principal. Star rank 21, Alpha Regulus. His talent is Magic Swordsman. Hotaka told him he only did what was natural as a student. At the same time, the system informed him that he couldn't copy due to insufficient star spirits. The principal laughed, telling him to go out and rest quickly. He'd never forget his work this time. The three walked toward the gate to head out. Hotaka said to himself that although the principal's star rank was below Nozomi's and Yukirin's, his skill was leagues apart. He could really understand what kind of effort he'd put in. The light from outside shone into their eyes as they stepped out. Nozomi immediately went to hug him for coming out safely, saying she was worried. Other students also cheered him on, saying he was the strongest student. Hotaka told her to come on, she should stop hugging. Everyone was watching. She refused, saying she didn't care, she was never letting him go again. Hotaka hugged her back since it couldn't be helped. Now, the end countdown increased to 2 years, 364 days and 5 hours.